Lesson 21. Logistics Overview. Every article of equipment you use in Foxhole as a soldier, excluding your pistol and hammer, is made by players in-game, from your rifle to your grenades to your medical kits and radios. All these are built within the world by the labor of logistics soldiers. This even extends further. All defenses and emplacements in Foxhole are additionally built into the world or map by players, or as they are often called within the lore of the game world, combat engineers. The structures they build in the world run the gamut, from sandbags to walls to bunkers to outposts and watchtowers, and everything in between. It must be noted that each map is seeded with its towns, meaning that the structures, such as supply stations, workshops, and even garrisoned houses, exist statically and semi-permanently when a new war begins upon a particular map. However, these town structures can be destroyed, and it takes the dedication, once again, of logistics players to rebuild these structures from a destroyed or collapsed state into fully functional buildings and manufacturing plants, once again. As one can adduce from this, logistics players, combat engineers, are the vital backbone for war-making within Foxhole. All the materials needed by logistics players to construct weapons, items, tools, defenses, and structures in the world must be harvested from certain resource points within the current map. It is useful to think of Foxhole, in part, as a traditional real-time strategy game, whereby a player must send out units to harvest resources, have those resources brought back to base to be converted into money or materials, and then utilized on all manner of armaments, buildings, and upgrading the tech levels of these buildings, as well as using them to expand, first into one's natural and pocket expansions, and then creeping over the map until the front lines are eventually drawn, and the initial first few days of a war's Zerg marine rush settle down into a greedy, controlling long war. The primary difference in Foxhole is that each controllable unit that would normally be present in an RTS, from a miner to infantry and tanks, are all players instead. Well, the tanks aren't players, but the people controlling the tanks are players. Just making sure that's clear, before the automated tank mech apocalypse is upon us. This is why communication and orchestration is key to victory in Foxhole. This is indeed why the player-designated role of a quartermaster is vitally important for a faction that fights onwards to victory. The theory behind this role will be covered later in this series. As a macro overview to the functionality of resources and logistics in Foxhole, it flows in the following way. Resources are collected from 4 node types: scrap, components, sulfur, and fuel. These are each, with the exception of fuel, brought to a manufacturing plant for refinement into these resources following usable states. Basic materials, or BMATs as they would be called quickly in text chat, refined materials, or RMATs, and explosive material, also called EMATs or XMATs. From here, these usable resources are sent all over to accomplish various deeds, from creating munitions, weapons, vehicles, and medical supplies through using them within manufacturing structures, to ferrying them to FOBs and outposts or other areas for combat engineers to use them in order to build passive and active fortifications. Moreover, the collection of basic resources from their nodes on the map also randomly yields technology parts, which, generally under the guidance of one's faction's quartermaster, are used to upgrade the workshop or vehicle and weapon factories to higher technology tiers, in order to produce more sophisticated and generally better munitions for your faction's soldiers. As a final note, as a logistics player, due to the incredible weight of unrefined and refined resources, a logistics player will, more often than not, be in possession of a transport truck, either personally or together with a logistics squad of other players. Logistics players, as well as combat engineers, use transport trucks to ferry harvested resources, haul crates of supplies and ammunitions to other towns and outposts, and use them to convey resources for building defenses to various locations on the map. If you happen to come across an unlocked transport truck in the world, it is generally good policy to first ask if the truck belongs to any other player nearby, either through chat or voice communication. No one, least of all a logistics player likes Grand Theft Auto in their Foxhole game. By and large, logistics players will lock their trucks, but it is good policy to ask anyway, just in case. And that brings us to the end of our macro overview of the operations of logistics within Foxhole. Remember, there are no pre-described roles in the game Foxhole, and you too, soldier, can be a logistics player or a combat engineer. Now let's roll up that sleeve, flex those varying degrees of triceps and biceps, grip our hammers, and get logistically dirty.